So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time within 20 minutes. The idea behind this lecture series is that you do not miss out on your current affairs on a daily basis. You get your daily dosage of current affairs. And the second purpose of this lecture series is that you do not spend the entire day in covering the newspapers or the current affairs. You should spend only around 40-45 minutes in covering current affairs. So, what you should do is watch this lecture series within 20 minutes and then take 20 minutes more to revise what was discussed in this lecture. All right. Through that, if you follow this process, then you would cover your entire day's current affairs in a short span of time, 40-45 minutes, and that would be all. You can spend the rest of your day covering other subjects of your UPSC examination or syllabus. All right. So, this is the idea behind this lecture series to cover your current affairs, important current affairs, which will feature in your examination and not take much of your time so that you get other time for your other subjects. All right. Okay. Enough of the introduction. Let's straight away jump into the discussion, starting with what will we discuss in this lecture? What are the topics that we are going to focus on in this particular lecture? So, in total, we'll be focusing on 4 topics. All right. Number one would be Conference of Parties, COP 16 of Convention on Biodiversity or the Biodiversity Convention. Okay. So, 16th Conference of Parties is happening in under Biodiversity Convention in Cali. The name of the city is Cali, Colombia. Okay. So, Cali city of Colombia is hosting 16th Conference of Parties of Convention on Biodiversity, CBD. So, what is being discussed? What is the agenda? We'll talk about this. Then, recently, Government of India has decided to create a cloud chamber at Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Pune, as part of Mission Mausam. So, you guys must remember what Mission Mausam was. We have discussed this in previous lectures of Daily News in Shorts. Okay. Now, under this, cloud chamber is being constructed so that we are better able to understand monsoon systems in India. Okay, so we'll talk about this. Then everyone is talking about the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. But what is so special about the city Kazan? We'll focus on this aspect of this topic. Okay, and in the end, we'll talk about the situation that India is facing, which is shortage of DAP fertilizer. DAP is a very important fertilizer, especially for rabi crops, wheat, potato, and other tuber crops. So if there is shortage of DAP fertilizers, then there might be shortage of crops at the end of rabi season or the harvest at the end of rabi season. It might cause wheat shortage, which might lead to food shortage and cause food inflation. So it's a very serious problem and we'll discuss this. All right. So we'll be focusing on these 4 topics. Let's start with topic number 1, that is 16th Conference of Parties of Biodiversity Convention. Okay. So look, climate change conference is going to happen in Baku, Azerbaijan. Okay. It will happen in November. But before that, 16th Conference of Parties to Convention on Biological Diversity is happening in Cali, Colombia. Okay, so climate summits or summits related to climate change are happening in a series. November will be the time for climate change summit, and October is the time for Convention on Biological Diversity. So right now in Cali, Colombia, 16th conference is happening of Convention on Biological Diversity. Now this year's meeting is the first after landmark agreement on biodiversity. The Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework was concluded at COP15 in Montreal 2022. So the 15th Conference of Parties under CBD happened in Montreal, Canada in 2022. Under that conference, this framework was agreed to. Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. It set various targets, okay? It laid down 4 goals and 23 targets to be achieved by 2030. So since then, it is the first, this 16th COP will be the first conference since this framework. Okay. Basically, the agenda of 16th COP would be how to implement this framework. Okay. Now, before discussing what this framework is, what these 4 goals are, we'll talk about Convention on Biological Diversity. What is CBD? So CBD, actually, International Convention on Biological Diversity, came out in 1992 when Rio Earth Summit happened in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So in 1992, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil conducted Earth Summit. Within that Earth Summit, UN, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was passed. Convention on Biological Diversity was passed. Okay. Now, Convention on Biological Diversity, as the name suggests, is all about conserving biodiversity in the world, that the plant species should be conserved, animal species should be conserved. Basically, this CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity, has three goals. First of all, protect biodiversity. Then, sustainable use of its components. So, for example, many people use various tree components, they use it for wood, various medicinal plants are used. All right. Biodiversity is used for human consumption, right? But we need to take care of its sustainable use so that we do not exhaust all these biological resources within 10, 20 years. Okay. So, sustainable use of biological resources and fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from genetic resources. Different genetic resources, if a particular country has done some path breaking breakthrough or has innovated something using biotechnology. For example, a country has innovated or created a new GM crop. So, fair and equitable benefits should be shared among all countries. This is also the goal of CBD. Any new biotechnological product using genetic resources should be shared among all countries. This is also the third goal. So, you need to remember these three goals of CBD. Now, remember, almost all countries of United Nations, all member countries of United Nations are members of CBD except USA. The biggest country of the world, USA, is still not the member of CBD because it has not ratified CBD. It is the only member country of UN that has not ratified CBD, else everyone has ratified CBD. All right. Now, we talked about Kunming Montreal Framework, right, which was discussed in COP 15. Now, we talked that there were 4 goals and 23 targets discussed in that, right? So, the most important goal in COP 15 in Montreal, the Kunming Montreal Framework, the most important goal of Kunming Montreal Framework was 30-30 targets. This is a very important point. You need to remember this because very high chances exist that question might be asked from this. Okay. So this 30-30 target is part of Kunming Montreal Framework. Now, what is this 30-30 target? All countries should at least preserve 30% of the world's lands and oceans, especially the biodiversity rich area, by 2030, and to initiate restoration work in at least 30% of degraded land or marine ecosystems by 2030. So 30% of world's land and ocean should be protected, should come under protected area by 2030, and 30% of destroyed ecosystems should be restored by 2030. That is why 30-30. Okay. Under the Kunming Montreal framework, each country is supposed to prepare and submit action plans to halt and reverse biodiversity loss within their jurisdiction. So, uh, every country will prepare national biodiversity strategies and action plan, NBSAPs, for implementing this 30-30 target. So, what is your plan? Every country will submit that this is our plan to implement 30-30 target by 2030. Okay. Now, COP 16, which is happening in Cali, Colombia, will have discussions on 30-30 target. This is the main agenda of COP 16. Okay. Rest we'll know after the conclusion of this summit. At this moment, the summit is going on. COP 16 is going on. At the end of COP 16, we'll get to know what was decided in COP 16. At this moment, you need to know this much only. All right? Okay. Let's shift our focus to topic number 2, which is cloud chamber under Mission Mausam. So, you guys remember Mission Mausam? Right? What was Mission Mausam? Basically, Mission Mausam was India's scientific project. Okay, under which Indian government will upgrade its scientific instruments, its scientific labs, everything. India will upgrade its scientific instruments, get better quality instruments, get better quantity of instruments. Okay, uh, complete overhaul of India's scientific instruments for predicting weather. So India's weather prediction model should be upgraded. India's weather prediction scientific instrument should be upgraded. This is what is all in Mission Mausam. Okay. But Mission Mausam is not just about weather prediction or improving India's weather forecasting. It is also about weather modification. Okay, as you can see in this paragraph, Mission Mausam launched by government last month aims to not just improve weather forecasting, but also manage weather modification. Now, weather forecasting is simple: predicting weather events. Okay, predicting weather events in the future. But what is weather modification? Weather modification is changing weather. So if there is no rainfall in a particular area, you do some things that there is rainfall in that area. Okay. If there is high rainfall in that area, then you do some things. You take certain steps and the rainfall gets reduced to prevent floods. If there is a drought like situation, you increase the chances of probability of rainfall, right? So, in a way, you are playing with nature. You are actually changing weather. Okay, this is what is weather modification. Like manage certain weather events, enhance or suppress rainfall, fog, lightning, etc. So Mission Mausam is not just upgrading scientific instruments to better understand weather forecasting. It is also to upgrade scientific instruments to better our capabilities of weather modification. One such method of weather modification is called cloud seeding. One such method of weather modification is cloud seeding. Dubai does it and various countries do it. Okay. They create artificial rain. What they do is they create clouds in the air, and because of that, rainfall happens. Okay. Now, there is no rain in an area, but due to certain steps by the government, rain happens. This is weather modification. But to better understand weather modification or to better perform weather modification, you need to understand how can you play with this weather phenomena, or how can you tweak this weather phenomena. And that's where cloud physics comes in. Okay, if you need to understand rainfall and if you need to modify rainfall, then you need to understand cloud physics. And to better understand cloud physics, India is actually establishing a cloud chamber at Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Pune. Okay, IITM. It is an artificial chamber, big chamber, in which you will create artificial clouds. So it is a chamber which is controlled, which has a controlled environment. You control the moisture in it, you control the particles in it, and in that chamber you create artificial clouds. Why do you do it? To better understand cloud physics or cloud mechanics. Okay. So this is exactly what cloud chamber is. A cloud chamber resembles a closed cylindrical tubular drum inside which water vapor aerosols are injected to create artificial clouds in the chamber. This is being done to strengthen research in cloud physics. Because if we better able to understand how clouds form, how clouds behave, then only we'll be able to modify weather events related to clouds in actual nature. Okay. Now, India is building a cloud chamber with convection properties. So, this cloud chamber is convective cloud chamber or convection cloud chamber. Now, there are different types of cloud chambers. Convection cloud chamber is the most complicated and scientifically advanced, and it is most suitable to understand Indian weather, Indian monsoons. Okay, so globally, very few countries have convective cloud chambers, though many countries have cloud chambers, but convective cloud chambers are high technology cloud chambers, and India is establishing this at IITM. Okay, all right. Now, what is the importance of this? What is the significance of this? Cloud physics basically involves the study of cloud behavior during normal and extreme conditions. The objective of establishing a convective cloud chamber is to gain a better understanding of cloud physics under conditions commonly affecting Indian weather systems. And once you understand Indian weather systems, then you can change Indian weather. And that is what weather modification is. So, this is a big step. All right. Already, India has taken steps for weather modification. Okay. India had already launched a project called CAPEX. Okay. CAPEX is the full form is Cloud Aerosol Interaction and Precipitation Enhancement Experiment. It is basically an experiment for cloud seeding, for creating artificial rain. Okay, so CAPEX is a cloud seeding experiment. What is cloud seeding? It is a weather modification technique that artificially increases a cloud's ability to produce rain or snow. So what happens is you carry silver iodide particles and put these silver iodide particles in a plane. Then this plane flies and sprays silver iodide particles in the sky. Now these silver iodide particles are very good at being aerosols. What are aerosols? Aerosols are those particles on which water vapor gets condensed. So, silver iodide particles are very good particles on which, or very good candidates for condensation of water vapor on these particles. And once enough water vapor gets condensed on these silver iodide particles, clouds form. And then once enough water vapor gets condensed, then these clouds lead to precipitation and rain happens. Okay. So India first conducted this experiment in 4 phases, through which is called CAPEX. Okay, it was conducted in 4 phases. So already India is conducting experiments related to weather modification. Okay, cloud chamber is just another experiment to better understand how India or Indian government can modify weather. All right. Okay. Now we'll move on to next issue, which is BRICS summit in Kazan. We all know BRICS summit is happening in Kazan. We all have studied BRICS also. In previous lectures of this lecture series, I have talked about BRICS, its membership, how many members it has, when was it formed, and all that stuff. All right. So we won't focus on what BRICS is or what happened in this BRICS summit. Okay, because same things happen in BRICS summit. Okay, PM Modi met with Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, the leader of South Africa. Okay, so all these leaders meet and decide on certain things. That's not important because we will cover that in other current affairs. The reason why I put this topic in today's lecture was that why did Russia conduct this summit in Kazan instead of its capital, Moscow? Okay, what is so special about Kazan? So we'll talk about that. All right. So PM Modi is in Russia for the 16th BRICS summit. China's president is attending this. Obviously, Vladimir Putin is hosting it. South Africa's president Cyril Ramaphosa is attending this. Now, this is being hosted in Kazan. And Kazan is a very special city. It is one of the largest and wealthiest cities because this city is hub of petrochemicals industry, military industry, IT industry. In fact, in 2009, it was branded as Russia's third capital after Moscow, St. Petersburg, which is the cultural capital, and then Kazan. Moscow is the actual capital, St. Petersburg was the cultural capital, and Kazan. It is branded as the third capital. It is that big a city. Now, let's learn a bit more about Kazan. Where is Kazan? As you can see on this map, Kazan lies on the east of Moscow. It is around 900 kilometers away from Moscow, okay? And it is more closer to Kazakhstan. And that is why various Turkic and Central Asian people reside in this city. Let's talk about Kazan, okay? Located 900 kilometers to the east of Moscow at the confluence of river Volga and Kazanka. The city is home to 1.2 million. It is the capital city of Republic of Tatarstan. Okay, so Russia, one of the regions of Russia is known as Republic of Tatarstan. Tatarstan, why is it called Tatarstan? Because it is the original homeland of Tatar people. Tatars are an ethnic group. Okay, so this region is known as Tatarstan because this is the homeland of this ethnic group called Tatars. Okay, now Tatars are the second largest ethnic group in the country after Russians. Okay, 80% of Russia is ethnic Russians, Christian Russians. But Russia also has various ethnic minorities. Now, the biggest ethnic minority in Russia is Tatar. Tatars are Muslim Turkic ethnic group with their own language and distinct culture. They don't speak Russian. They learn Russian, of course, but their original language is not Russian. Okay, they have their distinct culture. In fact, you need to know a few facts about Russia also. Russia is a huge country and a very diverse one. More than 80% of Russia's population is ethnic Russian, but it also comprises 193 ethnic groups and 21 national republics. Okay, most ethnic Russians, these 80%, are Orthodox Christians, but most ethnic minorities are Muslims. The population of Kazan is split roughly equally among ethnic Russians and ethnic Tatars. And this is why Kazan is a cosmopolitan city because it has ethnic Russians also and it has ethnic Tatars also. In fact, as you can see, it has a grand mosque, it also has a grand church. So it's a cosmopolitan city, and it basically the reason why Russia chose this city was to showcase that Russia is a multi-diverse. Russia is a diverse country. It respects different ethnicities, and Russia is home to different ethnicities. So to show the world that Russia has many ethnicities and Russia respects its minorities, Russia chose this venue. Okay, so to show that Russia is a blend of Europe and Asia. Tatars are Asiatic communities, Russians are European communities. Okay, so it's a melting pot of diverse ethnicities and religions. Okay, Kazan hosts one of the biggest churches, it hosts one of the biggest mosques also. All right, and last topic, shortage of DAP fertilizers. Now, DAP stands for diammonium phosphate. It is a compound fertilizer. Basically, what do fertilizers do? Well, fertilizers provide essential nutrients to your plants. Okay, plants require various nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, sulfur, potash, and many others. Major nutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Okay, now DAP is one such fertilizer that provides nitrogen as well as phosphorus. And both nitrogen and phosphorus are important for rabi crops, especially wheat. Okay. Now, nitrogen can be provided through other fertilizers like urea. But farmers depend on DAP for phosphorus, and phosphorus is very important for a wheat crop. In fact, it is said that at least 150 kg bag of DAP is required per acre for wheat crop. So if you are sowing wheat in 10 acres of land, then you require 500 kg or 1050 kg bags for that. Okay. And currently, India is facing severe shortage of DAP, and farmers are worried. Okay. Now, let's talk about DAP. Okay, what is DAP? So, diammonium phosphate is a white crystalline water soluble fertilizer that is common source of nitrogen and phosphorus for plants. Okay, now it contains 46% phosphorus. Now, you can get phosphorus from other fertilizers also, but DAP is quite rich in phosphorus, and that is why farmers prefer DAP over any other phosphate fertilizers. Now, phosphorus is an important nutrient that is needed by crops during their early growth stage at the time of root development. Okay, without that, crops won't grow to their proper size, and farmers would see their crops getting failed. Okay, that is why DAP is important, and that is why farmers are worried, because farmers are saying that without this fertilizer we won't sow much wheat, and if farmers won't sow that much wheat, then we will face wheat shortage around April during the harvest time. And when there is shortage of supply of wheat, that would lead to food inflation in India, and India cannot afford food inflation at this point. So that is why we need to take emergency steps to make DAP available to farmers. Okay. Now, why DAP is in short supply? First of all, very high global prices. So India imports a lot of DAP. Okay. And global prices of DAP are quite high, and because of that, many farmers think DAP is unaffordable for them. And that is why many importers are not importing DAP from abroad, because they think that at such high prices, farmers won't buy from them. Okay. So one is this reason. Then government actually fixes the price of DAP. Now, government has already fixed a very low price of DAP. Okay. So what happens is, let's suppose an importer buys DAP from abroad, okay, from foreign. He buys, let's suppose, at 100 rupees kg. But government has told these importers that you cannot sell this fertilizer beyond at a price beyond a certain threshold. Okay, so you cannot sell this DAP, for example, to farmers at a price which is more than 50 rupees per kg. Now, the importers would say then that we would face losses. Okay, we are buying at 100 rupees kg, but we are selling at 50 rupees kg. So government says that we'll compensate you for this loss. Okay, but currently what has happened is government is not giving adequate subsidy or adequate compensation to these importers. That is why these importers are not importing DAP from abroad. All right, and that has led to extreme shortages of DAP. Plus, these importers have to face import duty, bagging, port handling, interest, dealer margins, and other costs. That has made importing DAP for them unviable. And that is why these private players are not importing DAP. And that is why India is facing DAP shortage. All right. That is the reason for all of this fiasco. Okay. All right. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope it has added value to your preparation. Now, I would really want you guys to revise what was discussed in today's lecture. And you can revise that by reading the PDF file attached to this lecture. Okay? Look, if you really want to consolidate your current affairs, then you need to first see this lecture, okay, watch this lecture, and then revise what is discussed in this lecture. 20 minutes for watching this lecture and 20 minutes for revision. Then your current affairs for one particular day would get consolidated. Now you can find this PDF file on our Telegram channel, and the link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below this video. So click on that link, you'll be taken to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download the PDF for this lecture. All right. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.